Do not ask me to remember. Don't try to make me understand. Let me rest and know you're with me. Kiss my cheek and hold my hand. I'm confused beyond your concept. I am sad and sick and lost. All I know is that I need you to be with me at all cost. Do not lose your patience with me. Do not scold or curse or cry. I can't help the way I'm acting. Can't be different though I try. Just remember that I need you. The best of me is gone. Please don't fail to stand beside me. Love me till my life is done. Alzheimer's is a disease that causes problems with an individual's memory, thinking, and behavior. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. Dementia is a term generally used to describe memory loss or other intellectual inabilities one may experience. Although Alzheimer's disease is more likely to be found in people over the age of 60, it is not an age-related disease. Many people think that it is an age-related disease, but it's not. Age is not the cause of Alzheimer's. It's other factors that can lead up to Alzheimer's, and we will talk about that later in the presentation. Living with this disease can show progression very fast over the years, and that is why sometimes the 7 stages that I'm about to tell you guys about can overlap, and people can sometimes not know which stage one may be in. The first stage is no impairment. During this stage, the individual is not experiencing any signs or symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. The second stage is a very mild cognitive decline stage, and during this stage, the individual may recognize that they are forgetting small things, where they put their keys, things like that. The third stage is mild cognitive decline, and this is when family and friends may begin to notice the changes in the individual. During the fourth stage, which is called moderate cognitive decline, the individual may begin to forget personal history, and they may become moody and just have difficulty handling daily responsibilities. During stage 5, which is called mildly severe cognitive decline, the individual will need help with their day-to-day activities. During stages 6 and 7, these stages may begin to overlap and have been seen to be an overlapping stage because this is where the individual is unresponsive to their environment, and they may experience other severe cognitive impairments as far as talking, walking, swallowing, things like that. Listed here we have the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. The first part is categorized as the early signs and symptoms, and this is where the individual becomes confused a lot and they have difficulty remembering new information. This part of the disease, people confuse a lot of time with just old age, thinking that the person is just becoming older, so they're just forgetting new things. So a lot of times they overlook that this could be a possibly chance of them having Alzheimer's disease. Later signs and symptoms that a person may experience is they will have mood and behavior changes, disorientation, unfound suspicions of family and friends, meaning they don't know who this person could be one day and one day they could know. They become more serious memory loss and confusion, and later on, like I stated previous about the last stage, and this is where the difficulty of speaking, swallowing, and walking can come into place. And these are all signs and symptoms, but these signs and symptoms can be different and may vary from person to person. In order to diagnose Alzheimer's, a medical assessment must be completed. If an individual is showing the signs and symptoms, he or she should be evaluated by a physician. A physician must carefully evaluate the patient to see if he or she has Alzheimer's. A medical history must be completed, mental status testing, a physical and neurological exam, and some blood tests to determine if the patient is suffering from Alzheimer's. It is important that the individual has access to the right physician. If the physician is not equipped enough to diagnose, they may refer the patient to a specialist. Neurologists, psychologists, and psychiatrists are someone who specializes in the diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Early diagnosis is very essential in order for the individual and their family to be better prepared for living with the disease. There are more than 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's disease. Of the population living with Alzheimer's in the United States, 3.2 million are women and 1.8 million are men. As the years pass by, this number will soon rise with the baby boom generation aging. It is expected that by 2050, 16 million Americans will have Alzheimer's. As far as African American, research has shown that African Americans are more likely than older whites to have Alzheimer's disease. African Americans are about twice as likely to get Alzheimer's disease than whites. I'm going to briefly talk about the 5 risk factors I discovered that can play a role in an individual's development of Alzheimer's disease. Listed on each slide is my journal findings that I found for each risk factor. The first risk factor that I discovered was the APOE4 gene. Research has found that the APOE gene, especially with the E4 subtype, has shown a connection to late onset Alzheimer's disease. The APOE4 gene is expected to be higher in African Americans because of its overrepresentation found in African Americans, therefore increasing African Americans' chances of having Alzheimer's disease. The second risk factor found was the cardiovascular diseases. The research found that there has been a growing increase of evidence showing how hypertension and other cardiovascular diseases has led to cognitive decline. African Americans, they have a higher risk for diabetes, hypertension, and cholesterol, therefore increasing their chances of getting Alzheimer's due to cardiovascular diseases. The third risk factor is depression. I found a study that found that a history of depression did increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease development. African Americans have a high level of depression due to their struggles with race, socioeconomic status, and other factors. The fourth risk factor is the lack of exercise. Individuals are at a greater risk for dementia or AD development when exercise is not a part of their lifestyle. The connection I found with African Americans was just lack of education in this part. A lot of African Americans do not know that exercise can be a preventive measure for many diseases. The last risk factor I found was head injuries. I thought that this risk factor was a significant one because of the dominance of African American men in boxing, NFL, and the NBA. Research showed that there is a positive connection between Alzheimer's and head injuries. Here's my web of causation, and I have my 5 risk factors in the circles: depression, head injury, genetics, exercise, and cardiovascular disease. I want to briefly just talk about the connections and links that I found. I found the connection between exercise and cardiovascular diseases. An individual's lack of exercise can increase their chances of developing cardiovascular diseases such as hypertension, high cholesterol, and therefore increasing their chances to develop Alzheimer's. There was a connection between genetics and exercise. I did find a study that showed that the APOE4 gene in an individual and their lack of exercise did increase their chances of developing Alzheimer's. There was also a connection between cardiovascular disease and genetics. Research has shown that cardiovascular disease does have a link to genetics, therefore it could be passed down. And this is just some of the connections that I did found on my web of causation. Briefly, I'll touch on the social work perspective. I discovered an article where a clinical model was developed to help social workers handle discharge plans for Alzheimer's patients while keeping the ethical considerations a number one priority. The model has 5 steps, which is listed. I won't go into detail, but where social workers or other health-related professionals can go by when making ethical-based decisions for Alzheimer's patients. The community-based program I found targets the caregivers of Alzheimer's disease patients. This program is called REACH2. Caregivers play a major role in the health of an Alzheimer's disease patient. It is important for the caregiver to keep themselves healthy so that they can provide the best possible care for the patient. REACH2 was evaluated through a study conducted in Texas, and results showed that the interventions used for caregivers were beneficial. Some of these interventions were skills training, telephone support groups, helping them solve problems, and things of that nature. There is a more detailed description of what REACH2 is on the PowerPoint slide. Alzheimer's is a disease that has been affecting our society for many years. Individuals can become at greater risk for Alzheimer's when certain factors take a toll in their life. The risk factors that I presented earlier are just a few possible reasons that one may develop Alzheimer's. There is still a continuous flow of research for Alzheimer's and possibly a cure one day. This topic about Alzheimer's personally affects me and my family. My grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 6 years ago. Since her diagnosis, things have been hard on me and my family. Trying to find ways for us to cope and trying to find ways for her to cope has just been tough. Also, trying to find the appropriate care to take care of her has been hard. The journey that we have been on this road with her, it is a team journey. It's a team effort that we have. My grandmother raised me, helped my mother raise me, as far as taking care of me while my mother went to work, getting me out the school bus, preparing dinner for me. My grandmother helped do a lot of those things. So watching her sit here now and not know who I am, not know what today is, just not to know anything, just to sit there is very tough. I think more research should be done for this topic. It's a lot more that I think we need to know about Alzheimer's disease. And I think that we are getting closer and closer to possibly a cure. Who knows? I'm hopeful. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. And I just wanted to leave on this note, leaving this presentation in honor of my grandmother.